coming to dinner to beat your ass. And it's your boy, Icon, with some DC TV. This was shocking. This one was really good. Like, this was very intense. Like emotions have been had in this particular episode. So it starts with Lois because she's still going through it. She's still going through the cancer treatment, and she's still like, things are rough now. She got her own bed in her own room now, and Clark's just, doing everything in his power to be the good soldier. Because of that, and because she bonded with Pia and the Bruno Mannheim thing, she actually doesn't want to have anything to do with the Bruno Mannheim story anymore. Because Chrissy had actually brought some information because she was going to do a headline for the newspaper that outs Pia as his wife, like the secret wife of Bruno Mannheim. And then Lois was just like, no. Because she was just like, I basically Lois was like, I'm friends with the girl now, and, I know what she's losing, and I know what she's going to lose, and I know what she already lost. So she's like, let's just stay off the Bruno Mannheim thing. Chrissy got a little bit upset, and then Lois pulled the, I'm 50% owner of this newspaper, and I don't want my name associated. I'm just like, all right, whatever. So then she gets upset, she walks away. Clark ends up talking to her later, and he's just like, listen, Chrissy really tried. And then she's like, fine, you and Chrissy do it by yourselves. I want nothing to do with it. So Clark and Chrissy actually investigated. Chrissy got excited because Clark actually flew her to Metropolis. They went and interviewed some of the people at the hospital, which basically shamed Clark because, like, that one lady that was like the third wheel between Lois and between Pia, she was just like, oh, how dare you? Shame on you for trying to take down Bruno, who's just trying to save people. So they did their little investigation. And then Lois, she ended up getting some files from the general. The General Sam, he came over, Uncle Sam, he brought over some files that he got from John Diggle. And it was files and information about, Bruno Mannheim and Lex Luthor, like their whole cahoots, whatever. There was a tape that actually, has Lex Luthor confessing to killing certain people down in the south side of Metropolis. After Lois went through all that stuff, then like her reportive juices started flowing again, and then she was just like, no, she's like, I got to investigate this. Like, I can't resist. She goes back down to the Gazette. She talks to Chrissy and Clark and apologizes, and then all three of them go through the footage. When they're going through like the pictures and the files and the footage and everything, they end up pulling up the cassette tape that had Lex Luthor confessing to killing all those people. But then Clark had noticed like a certain like humming noise sound in the background, and he said that, listen, every time he fights that sound metahuman, the one with the harmonic vibrations, he always hears that specific sound. And then Clark and Lois put two and two together, and then they were just like, that sound meta is mimicking Lex Luthor's voice to frame him. And that just opened up a whole new can of worms for for Lois and Clark regarding Lex Luthor. Because now at the end of the episode, Lois was just like, well, shit. She said, I think we put Lex Luthor in jail for a crime he didn't commit. So now they got to do a whole thing where Lois and Clark have to actually save Lex Luthor from prison, and that's going to be hilarious. They're putting together the files, and they're trying to figure everything out. Meanwhile, back on the farm, Natalie is about, well, not the farm, I guess Metropolis. Natalie is about to have her date with Mateo's family. And John Henry Irons drives her to Metropolis. She gets out. She goes to the restaurant to meet him. While John Henry Irons was in Metropolis, he ended up going to see his sister. And then him and his sister was having a conversation because they were just like, listen, like, we've seen each other now. We're semi in each other's lives. We both have an issue with Bruno Mannheim. So it's kind of hard to ignore. Like, if you miss your brother and if you miss your sister and there's a doppelganger right there, like, it's kind of hard not to have a relationship. So the two of them are talking and having a relationship. He's telling her about Natalie, and he's just like, yeah, my daughter's dating this guy, and they're going down to a restaurant down, down in the south side or whatever. And then he told her the name of the restaurant, and then the sister was just like, oh no, that's where my brother used to go all the time to have dinner with Bruno Mannheim. And then John Henry Irons, like, his face lit up like a Christmas tree, and he was like, oh hells no. So Natalie goes down to the dinner. She's at dinner. She meets the parents. She meets Bruno Mannheim, and she meets Pia. They're having a wonderful dinner. There's laughing. There's joking. There's everything going on. John Henry Irons walks into the bar. That sounds like the beginning of a bad joke. So John Henry Irons walks into the bar, and then as soon as he walks into the bar, every single mobster, gangster, the entire restaurant was full of mobsters. And as soon as he walked into the bar, everybody stood up and pulled out their guns and had their guns on John Henry Irons. And then Bruno Mannheim said, he was just like, Natalie, is this your father? And she was like, yes, but is everything okay? And I'm like, clearly everything is not okay. There are like guns pointed at this man's head. So he was like, get the children out of here. So the goons grabbed the kids and dragged the kids out of the bar. And then Bruno Mannheim's, his goons, like they attack John Henry Irons and they start beating his ass. And then he's like, I told you if I ever saw you again, I'd beat your ass. And then he wraps the napkin around his hand and starts beating this shit out of John Henry Irons. Meanwhile, the kids are being dragged out into the street. John Henry Irons, I don't know why he didn't do this before he went into the restaurant, but he pressed the button to have his suit come to him. And I'm like, bro, you should have did that before you went in this mother. But, you know, he hit the button. The suit's on its way because obviously it takes some time to get from Smallville to Metropolis. And so I'm like, you should have just pressed the button before he walked in there. So he getting his ass whooped. And then as soon as like when Bruno Mannheim took out the gun and he was like, I should have killed your ass years ago. But then he said a long time ago. And when he said a long time ago, I'm like, are you talking about the original John Henry Irons? Anyway, so he was like, I should have shot your ass a long time ago. And in Pia's defense, she was like, don't do it. But she was more so like for the sake of the children. But once the kids were gone, I guess all bets are off. And right before Bruno Mannheim was about to shoot him, then that's when the suit came busting in. And then Pia used her metahuman ability to try to stop the suit. John put the suit on, but she was able to blast him out of the restaurant. And then after he got blasted out of the restaurant, Clark heard that shit all the way in Smallville. He's like, something's wrong with John Henry Irons. And then he flew off, to go help John Henry Irons. John's in the alley. He getting his ass whooped in the alley. P is using the harmonic vibrations to try to destroy his suit. And then Superman shows up and he was no help. Because when Superman showed up, because he has the super hearing, I guess his ears were super sensitive to the harmonic frequencies and the harmonic waves. So both of them are dying now. But I guess because there was some weird shit going on with her throat, and I don't know if it was cancer related or the strain of her using her vocal cords like that just weakened her along with the cancer. But her mouth and neck was doing some weird contortion, some weird kinky shit. And then she passed out because the woman is sick, she has cancer. After she passed out, Bruno Mannheim went to the floor and he was like, oh no, Pia. And then Superman, being the Boy Scout, he was just like, oh, your wife is dying. I need to get her to a hospital right now. And then Bruno was like, fine, take her. So the Superman took her. He didn't take her to the hospital. He took her to the DOE. He took her to the DOE and they locked her ass up. But then after that, then that's when Mateo and Natalie showed up. And then John Henry Irons was standing there. And then both of them looking at each other so what you gonna do? What you gonna do? And then he was just like, leave. And then John flew off and snatched up Natalie when he dipped. And then Mateo was just standing there looking at his daddy. And now the two of them got some conversation to do. They locked P up in the DOE. They stabilized her condition, but then, Superman, I guess he tried to semi-talk to John real quick because he was like, look, he said the woman has cancer and she's dying. And he said, are you sure locking her up in here is the right idea? And then that's when John was like, first of all, this bitch is a killer. He was like, she killed mad people. Her and her husband killed mad people. My daughter was with them in a restaurant where they was about to kill my ass. He was like, I don't want to hear no shit about her being he's like, I understand Lois had a thing with her and Lois were kind of cool, but I don't give a shit. He's like, I'm gonna kill this bitch. And we gonna come up with something and then Superman was smart. He ain't even say shit. He was just like, all right. He's like, whatever you want to do, brother, I got it. And then they called the general, who was actually at a he was at the good old Smallville diner talking to Lana because he was supposed to be on the Upswipes app, and then because he was talking to Lois, he was late for his Upswipes date, and then the date left, and then he saw Lana there, and then he was talking to Lana, and then Lana was just like, oh, I got these concert tickets, but I have nobody to go with. And then in the end, that's when Sam told her the story about what happened to him with his wife when he had his divorce and everything. And he told her, he was like, look, I've been coming to bars and diners and stuff, eating alone for over 30 years. He was like, woman, don't turn into me. So now Lana's thinking about that shit, because she got some. But see, and I felt bad because I was like, in that moment, because she has those concert tickets, I was just like, well, you can always ask John Henry Irons. But I'm like, now that he's going through the stuff that he's going through, now's not the time to go on a date with John Henry Irons. And I'm like, that sucks. So then John Henry Irons, he goes back home talking to Natalie, and then Natalie's just like, Dad, I didn't know that was his parents, and Mateo didn't know either. And he was like, I understand that, but he was just like, you could never see that boy again, and I need your phone. And then she was like, are you serious? He took her phone. And I was just like, Dad. See, and it sucks because I did say we were going to get that scene where somebody's going to be like, I forbid you to see that boy, but I thought it was going to be Lois. It ended up being John doing that because Lois isn't in a condition right now to actually have that conversation. Because Lois found out about that whole thing after the fact, so she's not even aware of it. And even if Lois was there and if she was aware, Lois does not have the energy or the strength to argue with Natalie about this boy. But I still feel like a conversation at least is coming with Lois and Natalie regarding Mateo. So, but John was just like, you cut off. Like, and he took her phone, so now she's all upset. She's crying. Jonathan and Jordan are having this whole thing now because Jonathan, he finally got to be like a trainee at the fire department. And Jordan is like teasing him about it because he's like, I'm a real hero. And then like, you're just a coffee getter. But then there was a fire that took place somewhere in Smallville, and they allowed Jonathan to come with them because he's a trainee. Like Kyle just said, he was like, listen, if you come, just don't move, stay right here and just observe. While the fire was in progress, Jordan flew in to try to save lives. And there was one life particular where Jordan had pulled the guy out of the fire. When Jordan pulled the guy out of the fire, he left him in front of Jonathan. So when Jonathan walked over to the guy to see if he was okay, then Kyle showed up and he was like, hey, didn't I tell you don't do anything? Get your ass over there up against the wall. Because now Kyle thinks that Jonathan went rogue and ran into the building and tried to save somebody. Jonathan got mad. Him and Jordan got into an argument because he was just like, bro, like you just messed my whole thing up. And then he was just like, your thing's not a real thing. He was like, I'm a real hero. You're just a joke. And then he got mad and he walked away. Sarah cursed him out, talked him off the ledge and told him to go apologize. He went to go apologize. But then that's when Jonathan said he had just got off the phone with Kyle, with Mr. Cortez. And Kyle told him that he thinks, well, he believes him now about the whole thing about him not saving the guy. And Kyle now thinks that the person was saved by a metahuman with special abilities, because they said that there was like frozen ice and like dry breath all over the place where the fire was. So they said like a superpowered being actually did something to save those people. And then Jonathan's whole thing is now they're on to you, for like, being trying to be a hero. So now like there's this whole thing where the Kutchin family, well, Kyle at least, he's after Jordan now because he suspects metahuman activity. And I guess Jonathan might keep his job. Maybe he won't, but we'll see. Oh, and then lastly, I almost forgot, at the very end of the episode, Bizarro woke up. So that's not going to be a thing. So that's going to be weird. And we waiting for that because I want to see what's going on with some Bizarro Superman. Yeah, that was pretty much it. And thank you for tuning in. So this was good. This was good. This was very intense. Like, this was like, guess who's coming to dinner indeed. And I guess this was supposed to be the mid-season finale, because at the end of the episode, we got a montage of like each individual character where like Jonathan was upset holding up his uniform. Jordan was trying to call Sarah to find out what her dad knows. Sarah and her mom were dancing somewhere while he was making that phone call. John Henry Irons is trying to repair his suit. Natalie's in the bedroom crying because I feel like this is like right out of like a Disney princess movie, but Natalie's crying because she's forbidden to see the boy and everything. And it just seemed like, because they gave each individual character like a montage ending, I was just like, this has like mid-season finale vibes. And then we find out the show doesn't come back until May 23rd. So we're getting about 2 weeks off of Superman and Lois, which I guess they resume the Tuesday before Memorial Day weekend, which is my birthday weekend. So we'll pick it up when that takes place, because up until May 23rd, we're gonna have the series finale of Titans, and we're also gonna have, I guess, maybe the series finale. The series finale of The Flash is either gonna take place the week of the 23rd and maybe the week before, probably the week up. So when Superman and Lois comes back, we're going to say goodbye to The Flash and continue on Superman and Lois, and then we're going to wait for Doom Patrol, because by then Titans will already be over. So hit me up on Twitter and or Instagram. Let me know what you thought about this particular episode of Superman and Lois, the whole thing with Natalie and the family and Pia and the dynamic and this, that, and the third, all this superhero goodness as we roll on to continue to discuss. So until next time, guys, up and away as always for some more Superman and Lois. Oh, and also Street Fighter 6 is putting out another beta, an open beta. I was a little disappointed with the demo, because the demo didn't allow you to actually play with any of the Street Fighter characters outside of Luke and Ryu. And the whole point of the demo was just so you can create like an avatar character and run around the city, but you couldn't save your progress. So once you turn the game off, you had to start all over. And I was like, I'm not doing that. But the third beta is coming out next week on the 19th. And when the beta comes out, we're going to live stream some beta for some Street Fighter action. So check that out too. So until next time, guys, up and away as always for some more Superman Lois in action that picks up on